Hello everyone and welcome to class 3 in Algebra 1. In this class we're going to be talking about non-binary operations, meaning operations that you can perform with just one number. There are such a thing. We're going to look at 3 of them right now in this class. Again, we're keeping the videos short so you guys can review them easy. You can go back and look for things easy and that type of thing. So let's start off with absolute value. Now, what in the world's an absolute value? The absolute value is defined as there we go. The absolute value function always returns the distance a number is from 0, meaning it is a positive number. So if it's a positive number, negative number, it's going to return a positive number because it shows you the distance you are from 0. If we go back to last class and we look at our number line, we can see that we have the origin, which is 0. We have negative numbers to the left of 0, positive numbers to the right of 0. The absolute value function or operation tells you how far you are from 0. It doesn't tell you really which side of 0 you're on because it doesn't matter to the absolute value function. So the way we write absolute values is as follows. Increase the font size of that just a tad bit for you guys. There we go. So I can say the absolute value, the way we denote the absolute value function is with two vertical lines surrounding the numbers. These are not parentheses, these are not brackets, these are just vertical lines. In computer programming, we call it the pipe symbol. And the pipe symbol on your keyboard is typically located above the enter or return key on your keyboard. It's usually, if you hold down the shift key and the backslash key, you'll get a pipe symbol. So absolute value of 4 is 4. Because remember, whether it's positive or negative, it returns a positive number. Now on the flip side of that, if I take this guy here, and I say I want to know the absolute value of negative 100. Well, the absolute value of negative 100 is 100 because you're 100 spaces from 0. You're 100 steps from 0. Remember, absolute value doesn't matter if it's on the left side or right side. It always returns a positive number. It shows you the distance you are from 0. All right. Now, that kind of begs the question. I'm going to copy this here for a quick second and do a little bit of doodling here. What's the absolute value of 0? All right. Well, the absolute value of 0 is 0, right? Because you're 0 spaces from 0. You're right smack dab on 0. So, and I don't know if we talked about this last class when we talked about the number line. If we did, we did. If we didn't, we didn't. We're going to talk about it now. 0 is kind of a funny number. 0 is neither positive nor negative. Okay? So he's really not on either side. He's just kind of the gate that controls the portal between Positiveville and Negativeville. All right? Give me a second here. All right, so there we go. So absolute value, just remember absolute value is the distance from 0, and it is a positive number. Okay? The number you feed into the absolute value function might be positive, it might be negative, it might be 0. But it's always going to return a positive number. All right, so keep that in mind. It's a very important concept. And we're going to talk about absolute values later on when we're talking about adding differently signed numbers. Like if I want to add a positive number and a negative number, we're going to take the absolute value of those numbers and do something with it. All right, so if we get back to the next function that we're going to learn about, or next operation, I say function a lot because computer programming, operation, is the same thing. They're kind of synonymous at this point. All right, no, we're going to look at factorial. All right, so factorial, let's get this here. Grab this. Go copy. Go, let me take that out because that has no relevance here. Let me bump it up here. There we go. Factorial is designated by the exclamation point. All right. So, and the definition of factorial is when I have a number n and I multiply that by every positive integer smaller than n. Well, that's a lot of word salad, isn't it? So, but what actually does that mean? Right? So I'm gonna underline the word positive here, and I'm gonna make it bold because that's important. Multiply n, make that italic. There we go. Just make some adjustments on the fly here. There we go. Multiply n by every positive integer smaller than n. So if I have a number, we'll say it is. I'll move that down here. There we go. Let's say I have a number 6 factorial, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, if we go by our definition, I'm going to multiply n by every positive integer smaller than n. So what that means is that's going to equal 6 because that's n. I'm going to multiply that by 5, by 4, by 3, by 2, and by 1. All right, so 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. I know the 1 seems kind of redundant, but it's a positive integer smaller than n. And that is going to equal, once we do all the messy math here, we can bring up our calculator on our computer here. Calculator right here. Move it on over. Go. 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And that equals 720. So 6 factorial is equal to 720. Right, the third operation that we are going to talk about is going to be the greatest integer. Now this is kind of a funny function here. You really got to think about it a little bit, maybe look at it 2 or 3 times. I know I had to when I first looked at it, but I'm going to insert a text box here and we'll type out the definition here. All right, so give me just a second. There we go. Takes any See, this is why I preload the stuff, so live fire exercise. Real integer, here we go. Oh, sorry. Number that isn't an integer and changes it to the greatest integer it exceeds. If the number is already in it is and yeah, let me get this little apostrophe in here to make the computer happy. There we go. Takes any real number that isn't an integer and changes it to the greatest integer it exceeds. Now, this is kind of tricky because if I say, here we go, yeah, go, I'm on my clipboard here trying to get some stuff over here. I'm gonna bring 2 equations over right now. There we go. Let's concentrate on the first one here. Sorry. go. And we'll put these down here for now. There we go. 6.25 equals 6. Does that fit our definition of greatest integer operation or greatest integer function? Takes any real number that isn't an integer. 6.25 is not an integer. It is a fractional number. Remember, an integer is just a whole number, and changes it to the greatest integer it exceeds. Now, this definition's kind of misleading in a way, because you just want to basically you just drop the fraction and you spit out the integer that is less than this number. So 6 is less than 6.25. Alright, kind of easy when you're working with positive numbers. When you're working with negative numbers, though, remember, you got to rewire your brain a little bit here. Because negative 8.75 is negative 9. So you got to watch for trip-ups like that. Alright, because, again, if we look at the number line here, let's go back here, let's grab our number line, let's bring it down here to the slide. Go. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. 8.75, or negative, well, here, let's do the top one first, 6.25. So 6.25, right about here. Alright, so I'm going to drop the fraction, and I'm going to use the integer for that, right? So 6.25, drop the fraction, and it's 6, because the greatest integer cannot exceed the number inside these brackets here. Now remember, when you're talking negative numbers, negative 8.75 is right here. If I put negative 8 for the answer, that would be wrong, because negative 8 is actually greater than negative 8.75. So the answer would be negative 9. That's your greatest integer function. You don't see it very much, but know that it's there, and know how to use it, and know that when you're talking about negative numbers, you go to the next lowest number. Alright? Alright, that's it for this class. When we come back, we are going to be looking at operating with signed numbers. We're going to add positive, negative numbers, subtract positive, negative numbers. And that's real fun, because we're going to use stuff we learned about in this lesson, such as absolute value. Alright, I will see you then.